Do you know the difference between a tropical storm and a hurricane? Here's a breakdown. A tropical storm is an intensified low-pressure system with sustained winds from 39 to 73 miles per hour, while a hurricane has sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or greater. Now, hurricanes are more powerful than tropical storms, not only because of their greater wind speeds, but usually a more powerful storm surge, along with greater rainfall intensities.
I can't tell you how many times someone has stopped me and said, "Steve, how do hurricanes and tropical systems form? I know they don't just jump up out of nowhere." To be honest with you, sometimes the experts don't understand the complete process, but let me tell you what they do know. Hurricane season really heats up during the month of August. There's three areas that we like to keep an eye on: the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean Sea, but most of the tropical systems that have a major impact on Florida will usually form in the Atlantic Ocean and a lot of times off the coast of Africa. Now, here's how these systems will actually grow, come together, and form. Warm air rises and cools with height. Now, this motion leads to clouds and thunderstorms. Now, the clouds must reach a height of 15,000 feet for continued thunderstorm activity. Now, the wind speeds up at this higher level must stay constant and stay at a low speed in order for the system to continue to grow. And it needs to grow in an ocean that has a water temperature of about 80 degrees. If it's cooler than that, you're not going to get a whole lot of formation out of this, or if one tries to form, it will fizzle out. Now, usually there's high pressure to either the north or the south that will help that cluster rotate. Once that cluster is rotating and we have sustained winds of 38 miles an hour or less, we have a tropical depression. You've heard of the depression. Once the organized circulation has wind speeds of 39 to 73 miles per hour, now we're talking about a tropical storm. It's at this point the National Hurricane Center, not us, but the National Hurricane Center gives the system a name. Now, if it continues to grow and intensify with winds of 74 miles per hour or more, now we have the hurricane. And Mike, the good news is we're going to learn a lot more about that storm before it gets a name.
That's right, Steve. And who do we have to thank for that?
The Hurricane Hunters.
Another big part of keeping you and your family safe, that's the Hurricane Hunter aircraft. In fact, you see the C-130 right there behind me. That flies in the low levels of the storm, sends us back the data so we know how strong that storm's getting. And then the Gulfstream 4 right there, that actually flies at 50,000 feet, and it drops about 40 to 50 tubes or dropsondes that sends back lots of data for all of our weather models.
Well, this is what we were told to put on as we went through the eyewall, at least back in 1988.
So, Captain, you've been through how many storms, and what is it like flying through these things?
So far, I've been through 132 eyewall penetrations, and there's times that the dash can be shaken hard enough that where it's difficult to read the instruments. And about that time is when the autopilot says, "I'm done. Good luck, cowboy. I hope you make it." You're in a thick line of thunderstorms, and then you just break out like that, and it's clear. And you look up during the day, it's a blue sky. At night, you'll see the stars. And when we find the absolute center, we know we've got it when we see 0 on the wind speed indication.
When it's not flying hurricanes, they are transporting equipment, they're flying winter storms, and there's 10 of them. This is just one of 10 C-130s that are about 15 years old, specially equipped to fly into hurricanes. But otherwise, they're pretty much like any other C-130. That's a turbulent, bumpy ride.
Okay.
And that's a sweet, smooth ride. But they're both cool.
My name is Lieutenant Dave Cowan. I'm one of the Nova Corps officers in the United States Nova Corps. I'm the pilot of this Gulfstream 4. We get our tasking from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, and they provide tasking for us and a track for us to go fly around and drop dropsondes and collect tail Doppler radar information to improve hurricane forecasts, and also to use the radar to get sort of a cross-sectional view of the storm, almost like you're slicing a cake. So that's what the Hurricane Center is looking for. They're looking for all the goodies and the three-dimensional image that we produce with that radar system to help them better forecast what the storm's truly going to do. When you go around, you're flying around the storm, it's really kind of surreal when you're over the storm, you're looking down, you're kind of saying to yourself, that's a hurricane down there and I'm flying over this. But it's really rewarding to know that truly what I'm doing is making a difference to folks on the ground, and that I could possibly be saving somebody's life, which was kind of cool. So
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what it's really truly all about.
We've all heard of storm chasers, but you two took it to the next level. hurricane hunters. Now, I actually got to visit these hurricane planes and walk on them to them for the first time, but I've never flown in them. But you two have. Tell me all about it.
Well, my opportunity was great. I want to hear about Gilbert though, because you were in a hurricane. You
Well,
were a big one.
and back then, now I just got to go because my name was on the list. But as it turns out, as we're flying through the eye, as we're making the penetration, finding the lowest pressure, the meteorologist on board starts jumping up and down, running up and down the plane, saying 888 millibars, 880 millibars. What that meant was we were now at that point was the strongest hurricane ever recorded.
Okay, so for folks at home who don't understand why guys would willingly get into an aircraft, fly from safe land into the ocean, into killers, I mean, kind of explain. I mean, why do they do this?
Well, let's face it, as great as technology is, there's still not a better way to find out what is this hurricane doing down low where it's drawing all of its energy from the surface. And so as you know, when we fly into the eye wall, that's where the hurricane is inhaling. I mean, you're learning right then what is the hurricane doing.
It really gives us a better handle on the track, the intensity, and where it's actually heading, right?
And they're dropping instrumentation, drop sondes right into it and getting that kind of information. They have radars on board where they can find the center of circulation. I remember I flew out of Jacksonville International into Isaac, which was then a strong tropical storm becoming a hurricane. And thinking to myself, something I know you kind of take to heart as well, when you actually penetrate and get into the eye wall itself and come into the clearing, I mean, it is better than the movies.
It is. It's unbelievable. I say it's better than Spielberg. Now, I did have one interesting occurrence when we got into the eye. I think we had over 6 penetrations. One of those times, we got into the eye, normally nice and calm, and normally you don't hear much from the pilot. From the pilot, over my headphones, I start hearing expletive deletus because we were just offshore of Cuba. This is the late 80s. He found out the Russians were in there, but the Russians wouldn't tell us where they were.
We had to talk Cold War in Tim's flight. Mine was just a couple years back, so we didn't have to deal with the Cold War of that. I just had to deal with a bumpy ride and the potential of getting sick, and we got home safe. So all good stuff.
Excellent stories. You've talked me into it. I want to fly now on a Hurricane Hunter aircraft.
The First Coast is bracing for impact. Is your home covered? Next, what you need to know to make sure your home has the coverage it needs. Then we're putting it to the test. Watch as hurricane force winds rip this home apart, and later stories of survival. It only takes one to get you prepared this hurricane season. This is Hurricane Ready 2015, prepared for impact.